Hey everyone, I'm Radhika. Welcome back to DataZan. Today we are solving Power BI 2021 Week 22 challenge. And in this challenge, there are multiple things to do. First is we're getting JSON data. Second is we are going to use mQuery to remove some columns. And the third one is to use DAX to create these visuals. Now, I must admit that the DAX for this visual was quite tricky, and I used the solution provided by Megan in this video. So the full credit goes to her for that. Thank you, Megan. And let's now jump into our Power BI desktop. First things first, let's get data into Power BI. So for that, let us go to get data and go to web because it's a URL, and from there we need to fetch the data. So I am just copy pasting this URL and clicking on OK. Now, as you can see, the Power Query editor has already opened up. Now, the first thing that I will do is I will just rename this table as Nobel Prize. As I already mentioned, we need to remove all those columns which have .no or .se, or they start with links or meta. So what I can do is I can find these columns one by one like this one and then remove it. But that will be a tedious job because there are multiple columns here. So what I'll do is I will just write a mQuery code. So these steps are already done by Power BI for us. Let us now go to advanced editor and then add a few steps to it. So when we need to add a step, we need to put a comma at the step prior. Now I will first explain the logic on how we need to approach this. So first we need to get all the column names. From these column names, we have to find those columns which have our conditions, and then we need to remove those columns. So what I will do is I will just call this step column names. I will just do table.column names. The table that we need to provide is the table from the previous step. So I'm going to do that. Now we have got all the column names. The next thing that we need to do is find all those columns which have our conditions. So I will call this step columns to remove. And this will be, we need to select a list. So list.select. Now we need to select from these column names from the previous step. So I'm giving column names. And then for each text that ends with, now we need to first give what is the text. So we need to give the current text. That's why I'm giving an underscore value. And then the first condition is that ends with se, or text dot ends with, again, the current value that ends with .no, or now the other two conditions are for starts with. So text dot starts with underscore for the getting the current item. So the current item starts with links, or text dot starts with as meta. So now here we have selected all those columns which have these conditions. Last thing that we need to do is remove all of these columns. So I will call that step as result. And all we need to do is do table dot remove columns. From where we need to remove them? From this changed type. I will just rename this as well like that. So it's easier and we don't have to worry about the syntax. From changed type, and what we need to remove? Columns to remove. And now our final result should be this result. And let us now go back. I've made a mistake somewhere. Okay, so the mistake was because I renamed this step over here and I forgot to rename it here. I also forgot to add the current selection over here. Now click on done and this looks fine. So all our columns which have those conditions, they have been removed. And now this data also contains data for 2021, 2022. Because this challenge was in 2021, the data was only till 2020. So I would like to replicate the same. So I am just unticking these checkboxes and clicking on OK, which adds a filtered step here. Now the data looks fine, and let's click on close and apply. Now the next step in the challenge is to create a summarized view of this table where we have one row for one category, and the columns should be award category full name, then the first year when this award was given, last year when the award was given, and the number of prizes awarded. For this, I will go to the table view and click on new table. I will call this table summary table. I will now use a combination of add columns and summarize to get this table. So first let's do summarize. We need to summarize the Nobel Prize table, get the category, get the category name. Let's look at how this table looks like. And now we need to give the first year, last year, and number of awards column. So for that, I will use add columns function, give this table as the table to the add columns. And now I will call my first column as first year. We cannot just do minimum of the Nobel Prize award year. That's because it will not get the row context of which category are we talking about. So to bring back the context, we are going to place this inside a calculate so that it will understand for chemistry we have to give the minimum, for literature we have to give the minimum year, and like that. Similarly, I'm going to use the same logic for last year and use calculate, wrap it around max Nobel award year, and lastly total awards, which will be equal to, again inside a calculate, count rows of the Nobel Prize table and close all the brackets. Now if you will see, all of these have 1901 because the first prize was given in 1901. But for economic sciences, the first award was given in 1969. And we are able to get this context because of the calculate that is placed outside of this function. Similarly, for total awards, these will be 120 because there are 120 years. So one award per year. But from 1969 to 2020, it will be 52. Now to create this visual, I'm going to use a logic which Megan has already provided, as I have already mentioned. So thank you, Megan, again for giving that solution. So in Crux, what she has done is we need to find the starting position and count how many times we need to move ahead 1 year at a time so that we reach the final year. And then we also need to do some color coding. So when there are no awards given, we give a different color, and when there are awards given, we give a different color. So she has used two other columns. What I'm going to do is use the same logic but in a different way. We already know from this column how many years we need to travel to go from 1901 to 2020 or 1969 to 2020. So what I'm going to do is add a few set of rows here, which gives me the first year, like the starting point, so that when I sum them, I get the final years. So it's a little confusing to explain, but let me write the logic and then explain that. So what I will do is I will just call this first, and then I will again get a variable called second. I am going to use the same logic, so I will just copy paste and make amends where they are required. So we're going to keep the category as category, full name as full name. So all of these will get repeated. And we're going to repeat the same things for first year and last year. But for total awards column, we are going to add the first year for these corresponding categories. So total awards, what we will do is we will just copy this first year code and place it here. And now let me do a return statement and say I'm going to do union because I want these 6 rows again to be replicated at the bottom. First and second. And this is how it looks like. So all of this data is repeated, like all of this from chemistry till here, it's the same as the above data. The only difference is in total awards. Now, when I add 1901 to 120 for chemistry, it will give me 2020. So this is how I'm going to build that bar. Now, I need to give that bar two colors, one where there are no awards and the other where there are awards given. So in both of these tables, I will add another column. For that, I will just call this awards and say yes in the above one. And similarly, I will do awards at the bottom. And here I will define awards as no so that we don't give any color. So now what we can do is we can put this on legend and then give different. So now let's go back to our report view and in here get a stacked bar chart. On y-axis, I will get the category. On x-axis, I will get the total awards. On legend, I will get the awards. And now all we need to do is just change the axis. So for that, let's go to format view. And on x-axis, we will start at 1900 and maximum is fine. And let's just change the colors. For no, let's give it a white color. And for yes, giving it a gray color. We don't want the legend to show up. For sorting this, I will just bring in the first year in tooltip and I will go to sort axis and sum of first year. And this is how it was in the challenge. Now let us just tidy this a bit. For title, we want award category timeline. For x-axis values, we will just do it to 12. Similarly, for y-axis values, we will push this to 12. We don't want the title neither in y-axis nor in x-axis. And for y-axis, let us increase the width to 50%. Now the next thing that we need to do is create a table at the top. So bringing in table, first we need to get the award category full name, then the first year and the second year. And for first year, we don't want to summarize them. Similarly, for last year also, we don't want to summarize them. For style, we will use minimal. For values, let's just increase this to 12. For our table, I will just rename this as official category name. And for grid, let's just put this to a gray color so that we don't have that blue line at the top. For title, we're giving this title as 6 award categories. And now for our column headers, let's give them 12 as well. For the image on side, I will go to insert image and get the image. I have just taken a screenshot of that image and open it and just place it like that somewhere here. And to give this a background color, let's go to canvas background and choose the color. Put the transparency to 0%. And we just need to rearrange to make it look like how it is in the challenge. And this is how the final visual looks like. I hope you have learned something new from this one. I can certainly say I have, so thank you, Megan, for that. If you like the content, then please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This really means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching this. I will see you in my next one.